Hey everybody, welcome to Hammock Chats on the coldest day of the year. Let's go. It is 8:31 p.m. on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Current temperature 41 degrees. Oh yeah. Today's high was 49, which is the lowest high that we've had in at least a year. Um, Not only that, but it's also been windy, overcast, and raining. So it's rained. It's been pretty much a persistent drizzle for about 2 days straight, which is very unusual. But so as you can imagine, that makes the temperature feel significantly lower, especially with the wind and the fact that even during the day, you can't even see the sun. So it's still overcast. The wind's calmed down now. It's still a little breezy. It's maybe like 7 or 8 miles an hour. But yeah, the rain's done now. But man, that was really something. And actually, not too far away, it was snow because it was like 40 degrees and raining. So as you can imagine, if it was, a little bit cooler, it would have been snow. And it was up north, like I think Jacksonville and maybe all the way down to like Daytona Beach, but not quite here. But yeah, definitely very cold. This is instead of 3 months of winter, we get 3 days of winter. And this is it. But yeah, it seems like kind of the whole country, or at least the East Coast, is like a polar vortex. Washington, D.C. is like 10 degrees, New York City, 0. New Orleans got a snowstorm, which is very unusual. So, it's about due, honestly, because the last bunch of years, there hasn't really been that much winter. But the whole month of January has been, pretty cool. We haven't had really much above 70 degrees. So, hey, I'm not complaining. I like it. But yeah, so I got the hoodie on. I'm still wearing shorts and barefoot and all of that. But yeah, just kind of put the hoodie on to come out here, but I got all the doors open and everything in the apartment. And even though it's only a few degree temperature difference, like the thermostat said 51 last time I looked in the kitchen, but it just doesn't feel, I guess because there's no wind. Maybe that's the difference, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that's the weather update. Oh boy, there's a lot to a lot to catch you guys up on. How much time do I have? 41 minutes. It gets shorter and shorter every time. I gotta look into that and figure out what's going on. So I got 37 minutes left. Okay. Yeah. So as you may recall, I was not in a very good place the last one of these, and yeah, I pretty much hit the nail on the head. There's nowhere to go but up, right? So I'm definitely doing better now. So what happened actually turns out that the powers that be have a much different plan for me than what I expected, and was revealed at a very vulnerable time in my life. So actually, it's about 2 days after. Oh, okay, so I'll pick up right where we left off, right? So Wednesday, January 8th, I recorded that at the end of the day. Okay, Thursday, January 9th. So I got my big paycheck, my $7,000 or whatever, which did make me feel a little bit better. That day, I actually closed 3 deals. So, which I think is a new record, 3 in one day. So it was a huge day. I had 2 already on the month, so I have 5 contracts by that point, by the 9th. So I was leading the team. Second place was at 2. So that felt good. I had 3 go back scheduled, and I closed all 3 of them. So I felt much better after that, and they were really solid. And then I had a bunch more lined up too. I had referrals coming in from, that wanted to get back after the holidays, after the New Year and stuff. So I had appointments coming up over the weekend. Things were really, starting to turn around, starting to really look up. So I had this renewed sense of hope and optimism. Okay, so the next day, Friday, the 10th. Yeah, this is when everything changed. The impossible happened. So I walk into the meeting, and, well, first of all, usually we come in an hour early for the leadership meeting before the rest of the team. Leadership meeting at 9:30, or team meeting at 10:30. So Tyson puts in the chat the day before, hey guys, there's no leadership meeting tomorrow, just come in at 10:30. So I was like, all right, I didn't really think too much of it, but I'm like, maybe this is not, nothing on the agenda to discuss. So, I get to sleep in an extra hour. So I get there for the 10:30 meeting, and the VP of the company was there, which kind of caught me off guard, because usually, Tyson will tell us if we have a special guest come in, give us a heads up. But so he was just there. And so, I was caught off guard, but I was like, oh, all right, cool. Maybe he's here to do a training or check up on us or something, And so, yeah, people started trickling in, and, generally spirits were high. People, were in a pretty good mood. And so then the meeting starts at 10:30, and the VP gets up at the podium. And, I just think he's here to just hype us up and, get everything started. But so as soon as he walks up to the podium to start the meeting, he says, all right, guys, I'm just gonna read this announcement to you from my phone. And he pulls out his phone, and it just reads something like, as of today, January 10th, Trinity Solar has made the executive decision to exit the Florida market immediately, as due to several factors, how complicated the market is, and hasn't been profitable. So that, I thought it was a joke at first, but then he just doubled down on it, and that was it. And then he brought in this guy from HR to cement everything and say that effective immediately we're all terminated from the company, and we're locked out of our work emails and all of the apps and all the accounts, so I can't even access anything. And if I need anything, to just go to send an email to HR from my personal email, and that's the only communication I can have. But effective immediately, I'm not to represent the company or have any affiliation with it. So I was like, wow, okay, this guy's serious. And so just the look on everyone's faces, that was the last thing I expected to happen. And very emotional moment for sure. But yeah, so Trinity made the decision to exit the Florida market. And so apparently what I didn't realize is that it was costing the company $1 million per month to operate the Florida market. That was the cost of doing business here. And apparently, so we've been in Florida for 4 years now, and there hasn't been a single month in that whole time where Florida has made $1 million for the company in a month. So every single month it's cost the company more money to run the Florida market than we've made. So that's why they made the executive decision at corporate to just, cut it loose, because it's not. And, they were taking a chance on it thinking we'd get better, but it hasn't gotten better, and we actually did about a third as many installs in 2024 as we did in 23. So it's actually on the decline. I was doing pretty good. I had about half the office's installs last quarter, but obviously I can't carry it by myself. So, I'm just surprised that they did everything so suddenly. Like, I would see maybe if they just got rid of Outreach and Home Depot, because those are the two most expensive parts, and then just let direct kind of, fizzle itself out and still let us, go get self-gens and referrals and whatever that we can do, because I definitely would have been able to maintain for a little while. And then it's a little bit less sudden, so that way I can start looking for something else or thinking about what I want to do, you know what I mean? But still have time to kind of gradually phase out. But no, they just shut everything down immediately. And Outreach wasn't even in the office. Apparently they did their announcement through a Zoom call, which I heard did not go well. There were basically riots on that. But, we had ours in person, so I thought it was just going to be a regular meeting. So then I was locked out of everything, so I couldn't even access it. I have no idea what's going on with any of my deals or, any of my homeowners or anything. So that's that. So all of a sudden it just gets, the rug pulled out from under me. And so then we had, hung back afterwards, and the VP took us out to a management lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. And poor Tyson, man, I really go, my heart goes out to him, because I could tell, like, he was just destroyed. Like, he was just in the corner crying the whole time, and I've never seen him like that. But he really put everything. He really put his blood, sweat, and tears into the market, into Florida. It's his project. And he's the one that kept fighting for us and kept making it happen and pleading with the company to give us a chance and all of that. And he became the senior regional manager, and he's terminated too. Everybody was. So he's not even with the company anymore. And so that was really heartbreaking for me, because that was 7 years of his life. And he moved his whole family down here, and they didn't want to, and he convinced them, and he just bought a house. And so now I don't know what he's doing. But definitely a somber occasion. But so over the lunch, we started talking about, what now? And I was kind of trying to put the feelers out to see if there was still opportunity for me in the company in a different state, because they were doing way better up north anyway. Florida was never really considered a legitimate market by the other offices anyway. They kind of just laughed at us because our numbers were always so small in comparison. We're doing 30, 40 contracts a month, whereas the other states are doing 500 with the same amount of people. So it's just because Florida has so many additional factors that just make it way more complicated. So I get it, but it's still definitely a hard pill to swallow. But so I was open to it because I thought about it, and there's really nothing keeping me in Florida. There's really no reason that I have to stay here. I'll go wherever the opportunity is, and I've said that from the beginning. So, the VP was like, oh yeah, we definitely would love to have you. You're a really valuable asset to the company. We talk about you all the time at corporate, and we recognize and appreciate all that you do. And, you definitely have, a family here and everything. So I was like, all right, well, let me know, And so I was trying to, get more specifics out of him then. He's like, well, hey, let's just enjoy the meal, and I'll take the weekend to just kind of process everything. And, we'll figure it out on Monday. We'll do a group call, with the people at this table. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So, so that's what that plan was. But just all of a sudden, that's just gone. And, as you as you probably could imagine, my whole life revolved around that job. And, it just really was at the forefront of everything that I was doing. And I really was passionate about it too. And so there's a lot of layers to that. Like, I feel, kind of guilty for, selling. A lot of the people that I signed up only did it just because they trusted me, that were not like these other companies that are just going to abandon them or take off or leave the state. I'm like, no, we're here to stay. I'm going to be here, I'm not going anywhere, all this stuff. And, right up until the day before. And, now I'm just another one of those guys now to them. But, I still believe they're in a better situation as a result of going solar with Trinity. I do think it's for the better. And the installs that I have, I just got confirmation yesterday that all the installations I have in the pipeline, basically everything that I signed up until that point, will still get installed and proceed as normal, and I'll still get paid for each of them, which is the most important. But all the installs are still going to happen. So, and I still have homeowners calling me with questions or, things that they're, ones that have already been installed, ones that haven't been installed yet, they keep calling me. I guess they don't know. Well, yeah, they don't know the news. So it's a dilemma for me. I mean, I could easily just ignore the calls, but I feel some sense of responsibility for it just because I went out of my way to go above and beyond to build such a meaningful relationship with these people. So I'm not going to abandon them. So I still help them out just like I'm an employee. I'm putting in just as many hours on the phone and in emails and stuff like that, and still trying to convince them to do the install and everything. So I haven't, told anybody, any of the homeowners, that I'm not, with the company or what happened. But the most painful part is having to turn the referrals away. I had 2 of them that were really excited about it and really, calling me over and over again to schedule an appointment. And so, I had to think of something to tell them because I didn't want to say, that we're not in Florida anymore. So I was like, oh, hey, I just got word today that your utility company is no longer accepting solar applications. But, I'm glad that the person that referred you got in when they did, but so that's nothing we can do for now. And so I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so it's just really sad, and it really puts into perspective too just how fragile everything is, and how how easily things can just disappear. Like I sacrificed a lot for that job. I lost a lot of sleep. Definitely got my heart rate up, my blood pressure up, and definitely, took a lot out of myself to put into that job, because I was investing in the future, because I thought, I was under the impression that I was climbing the ladder, and that, I would have a longer term career there and be more successful. But now, all of that just means nothing. Oh yeah, and nobody ever called me on the Monday after. And anyone that I would call, it would just go right to voicemail, and I would text them and they wouldn't respond. So I guess that shows, where I stand in the company. I'm just disposable, I guess. But, it's just a tough reality. And then, so all of that just means nothing. So I could have, done something else and been further along up in management. And, so, and the other thing was just the time adjustment, because, I just went home after that lunch, and, it just felt weird being home in the middle of the day. And not being able to do anything work-related or even look at anything work-related, because I'm locked at my account, suspended on everything, so I can't even, do anything. And so I really didn't know what to do. So I had to basically reinvent myself from scratch. But it was definitely a unique opportunity to reflect and reassess everything on myself. So I took that weekend to just kind of process everything. And I've talked on the phone a lot with coworkers and stuff and get their perspective and what they're planning to do and everything. But yeah. So, I think one of the morals from that story that I gathered is the thing that's worth investing in the most is myself, because that's the one constant throughout my whole life. Everything else is temporary. Everything else can come and go, at the snap of a finger. So I shouldn't be sacrificing myself for a job or for anything really, because it doesn't mean as much. It's not as it's not that it doesn't mean as much. It's not as certain or stable as me. Because for as long as I'm alive, I'm gonna be here, and I'm gonna be me. So the best investment I can make is just striving to be my best version, and just making sure that everything I do is in alignment with my personal development and growth. And you really can't go wrong doing that. But it's very easy to get distracted by things. And kind of coming out of that, I realized I was under like hypnosis basically for the whole time that I worked there, 2.5 years. There's a lot of psychological kind of conditioning, almost brainwashing, that was influencing me, that would just affect my whole life even when I wasn't working. And so, in absence of that, now it's over and I'm out of the spell. And so it's kind of like waking up, and looking around and seeing things from a new perspective. After analysis, I've come to the realization that I've actually done a lot of damage to myself, my mind and my body and my spirit during my time working there, just because the job was so demanding and so high stress and high pressure and just demanding, that it was just sucking my life force out of me. And especially for me, since I went above and beyond and all that stuff, is I really neglected other areas of my life and missed a lot of opportunities, and in a lot of instances it kind of made me, brought to the surface a lot of negative qualities of myself, like fear, anxiety, feeling inadequate or having a low self-image, especially like knocking doors and just being at, the way that people, a lot of people treat, people like me in my profession. I've endured a lot of trauma throughout my time in the field. I've had my tires slashed and people, putting graffiti on my car, and, people obviously calling the cops, but, threatening, myself and my family and whatever, and just terrible things that honestly, nobody, I wouldn't wish on anyone. And it's just kind of just part of regular life, I couldn't even vent about it to anybody, because most of my connections were coworkers and people at work, and it was just normal to them, so I didn't really, and anyone else that wasn't from there just wouldn't understand at all. So I've definitely endured a lot, and it's been scarring, really, but I was just kind of under a spell, so I didn't really get a chance to process it because I was just moving at a relentless pace. So I just kind of bottled a lot of things up, and I noticed it really changed myself and my behavior and my thought patterns. And so now it makes sense, hindsight is 2020. I can see why I was so clouded, and why everything was especially toward the end there, is getting real bleak, and I didn't know why I was just like agitated all the time, and depressed, and just not doing well, not healthy. Like when I was younger, I definitely had a glow in my aura, and I feel like the glow has been faded for a while, and I think that's probably why, is I just wasn't living a healthy lifestyle, and I just couldn't realize it. I couldn't fully realize it because I was too hypnotized. So I think it took that for me to realize this, because there's no way I was going to leave the company, So that's the only way that could have happened. But so yeah, once I realized like that, what it was and what had happened and where I was at, I didn't really even want to stay with the company. I certainly wasn't going to go to another solar company, because if Trinity couldn't make it work in Florida, I highly doubt any of the smaller ones can. So I just didn't want to deal with that anymore, especially having woken up. And nothing against solar. I mean, I still believe in it. It's a great concept, and it definitely does help a lot of people out. And I know that I've helped a lot of people out, and my conscience is clean as far as that's concerned. So that's good, at least. But just in terms of like, as an employee, and as me being who I am and how my brain works and everything, it's just not. It wasn't a very healthy situation for me, and I don't know how. Maybe it could have been different or whatever, I don't know, but I just know how it was. So what am I doing now? Well, I could have easily filed for unemployment and just kind of felt sorry for myself for a while, but I don't really see the practicality of that. So, I just took a couple days, and then after that, I was like, all right, because I can't just sit around and do nothing, because that's just going to make me feel worse. So I was like, all right, well, I got to move on. And so naturally, the first person that I talked to was Brad, who is, funny enough, I mentioned the last 2 or 3 of these, and he actually called me. And I thought it was because he heard the news somehow, but he didn't. And so he was just like checking up on me. Hey, how's everything going? And so I told him, and immediately he was just like, oh, well, just come over here, man. Like he always has said, like, hey, if anything ever happens at Trinity, you got a home here, and I want to make sure you take care of you. So I kind of had that in my mind too, like that was going to be my backup plan. I was loyal to Trinity, of course, but if anything were to happen with that, I would go to Brad before I would go anywhere else. So naturally that's what happened. And so I was like, well, actually, and so I asked him, some questions about the job and everything. And so, I liked what he had to say. And so basically he said that they are he's the regional manager for canvassing, which is what they call outreach there. And so the regional manager, so he manages like 3 different states. So the company's been around 17 years. They're in 7 states. It's basically the Trinity of Windows. So it's a very similar kind of vibe. And then Brad, of course, coming from outreach and Trinity, Brad's like, it's not even skipping a beat. He just brought the same like only the best parts of it, like the chat is exactly the same, a lot of the terminology, the meetings, the energy. So I felt right at home with him. But yeah, so he manages canvassing, and they currently don't have a sales manager for the regional or even for the office. Like, they don't have sales meetings or anything. They have 2 sales reps, and that's it. And Brad has 5 canvassers. So that was a perfect opportunity. So he was like, yeah, man, I mean, the company only hires from within. So everybody's got to start off in canvassing and then go, move up to sales and get promoted. He's like, but because of the unique situation, and since, apparently Brad's been hyping me up this whole time for the last 8 months to the owner of the company, he's already very familiar with me. So he was like, yeah, so I already got the owner to agree that if we bring you on, he'll just put you right in sales and fast track you to management, because he trusts Brad that much. And so I was like, wow, okay, well, yeah, if that's the case, then I'll, why not? I got nothing to lose, right? If it doesn't work out, I can just move up north, because that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm not gonna do anything else in Florida. So, but yeah, all right, I'll give it a try. And so he arranged a meeting with me and the owner of the company, Jeremy, at CC's Pizza. And so Jeremy actually confirmed everything that Brad said and doubled down on it. And so I got to hear it from him, which made me feel a lot better. Yeah, we had a really good conversation. And, he's kind of like Brad in a lot of ways, very similar kind of, ideology and personality. Jeremy's a lot more chill, though. He's a lot more kind of laid back and mellow, whereas Brad's a little more high energy. But so Jeremy is the owner of the whole company, so he manages everything, canvassing and sales for all 7 states. And he happens to live in Winter Garden, Florida, so about 30 minutes from me. So this is his home office. So, that's comforting to know that, this isn't going anywhere. And it's been 17 years, and they're only expanding. So, obviously, I feel secure with that. And, yeah, so... so he agreed to train me personally, because since they only have 2 sales reps in the Orlando office right now, he's also running appointments and doing stuff too. I'm like, man, you're the owner of the company. You shouldn't be, out in the field doing the hands-on stuff, He's like, well, I got to, and he has a wife and 6 kids and everything. So I was like, oh, man, well, don't worry. Once I, figure out, the product and the specifics to this, I'll be able to take a lot off your hands. And so he was like, oh, I'm looking forward to that. So, so that's good that we're on that same page. But so he agreed to train me personally. So I was like, wow, well, how can I pass that up? And so, honestly, it was a really smooth transition, because I already have the sales aptitude and the psychology and the strategies and, the do's and the don'ts. It's kind of a universal concept, and obviously I had the door knocking part down too, and appointment setting and all that. So the only thing I was missing was just the product knowledge, the specifics of, because I don't know anything about Windows. So I had to learn about that and, what we offer and the different programs and stuff. That's about it. But so that's not too bad. And so so all of last week, because this was, so the 10th is when all that went down. I met with him on the 12th. So the 13th was my first day. So that was last week. So that whole week, I was just shadowing Jeremy. I would go with him to all the appointments. He would send me when they are, and we would go run them. And from seeing what I did is audio recorded each of the appointments that we went to, so that way I can listen back and take notes and practice. And so, his presentation's the same every time, but honestly, I'm surprised at, first of all, how, short and simple it is compared to solar, which, as you know, is, numerous hours per customer for everything combined. Whereas with Windows, it's like 30 to 45 minutes for the whole thing, and it's one appointment, and that's it. And the surprising part is it pays about the same, because Windows are expensive, man. It's like a lot of times $30,000-$40,000, which is about what solar systems cost. So I'm making the same kind of money doing something that's way simpler and quicker. So it's more money per hour, is how I look at it. But so yeah, he comes in, he brings a little window with him. He does his presentation. It's about 7 or 8 minutes, explaining like the features and functionality and everything. Then he walks around the house and draws the blueprints of the windows and everything and what they're looking to do, and that only takes a few minutes. And he goes back inside, does some calculations to make the quote. That only takes a few minutes, and then he shows it to them, and they move forward. It's pretty simple. If they do cash, then he just gets a picture of their credit card, or they write him a check, and then that's it, and he's out. And if they're financing, then he just runs credit and then gets them set up on their account, which is a lot easier than with solar. So it's like 10 minutes maybe. So it's really refreshing. So I'm like, man, I can learn that pretty quick. So yeah, and so that's that. But yeah, so I'm relieved about that. And the other thing I was surprised by is how high the close rate is. So like I asked him like, well, how many of them fall off? How many cancellations out there? He's like, no, they don't cancel. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, we have like a 2% cancellation rate. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And so with them, there's no reclaims. And there's no 50-50 pay. You get paid 100% of your commission as soon as you sell it. And it's on that next week's paycheck. And no matter what happens, that money's yours. It never gets reclaimed. So that's also refreshing too. So I'm like, even if it's one of those rare situations where they do cancel or like it never happens, he's like, yeah, we're not going to reclaim your commission. So, oh, okay. And that's coming from the owner of the company, So, so it's the commission is 6% of the total price of the product for the appointments, and then 8% if it's a self-gen, so a referral or a cold knock or whatever. So, it varies, right? Because and some people, not everybody's going to do all the windows. Some of them they're going to phase them in, so they might do like 5 windows or, just a door or something, so it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, and so 6% of that is the commission. So, but what's more impressive is it's a higher volume, right? Because the appointments are shorter, so I can do more per day and more per week. Cancellation rate is basically non-existent. And what I was going to say is he really doesn't use any sales. He's not pushy at all, which really surprised me. And he doesn't need to be, because he's just so chill and so laid back. He just kind of talks and it sells itself, really, and especially since the pricing is really good. For the high quality window that it is, the pricing is the same level as the cheapest windows you can get. Which, windows in general are expensive, so that's why the commission's still good. But, for the homeowner, especially if they've gotten other quotes, every one that I've seen so far has been whoa, this is way cheaper than what the other people told us, So it's a no-brainer for them when they see that. And they do a good job of building that into the presentation. It's oh, yeah, we're a local company. We don't spend all that money on advertising because that just jacks up the price of the product. Instead, we go door to door, and we use you as advertising. We put a sign in your front yard, and that's how we get most of our business. And then we give you referral bonuses for everyone that calls us. And so by allowing us to do that, we give you over half off the premium windows. So it makes sense, and that's actually how it is too. It's not they're not bending the truth to make it sound like that. He straight up just says how things are. And so I really respect that. So there's really no manipulation or exaggeration or misleading information at all, which is probably the first time I've seen that in any kind of sales position. And he closes most of them. I mean, some of them, like, they don't have the cash, and so they want to finance it, but then they fail credit or something, or like, the other spouse isn't there, so they can't do it right then, or, whatever. Like, you're going to have those. But just in general, like, he sells probably 2 out of 3, which I was shocked by. So, and he doesn't even push them at all. Like, if they're like, oh, let me think about it, or, he doesn't push him. He's just like, okay, well, I'll leave this with you, and, just give me a call when you're ready. And what's even more shocking is that they actually do call him. Like, he texts me like, hey, that one from yesterday just called me and said she's ready to move forward, so I'm going over there this afternoon. I'm like, what? I'm not used to that, man. Apparently I only have 40 seconds left. Wow, this went by so fast. Yeah, so we're gonna have to put a pin in this, but yeah, so I'll probably do another one of these soon. It's gonna be cold for the next bunch of days, because I'd like to update you. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. I just finished. My last week I was shadowing him. Now this week he's shadowing me. So I'm like really getting it down now and practicing it by doing it. So far so good. I'll keep you posted how that goes and how everything else is going too. So till next time, everybody. I got 5 seconds left. All right. Take care and have a great night.